Patrick Reed with the Office of Secretary of State, Corporations and Charities Division. In this session, we're going to discuss filing, registering, and recording with the Secretary of State. So some of you may know, but this is also new to a lot of folks. What does the Secretary of State do in regards to business? Well, we register 70% of all new businesses in Washington State. If it's anything other than a sole proprietorship or a general partnership, then it must register with the Secretary of State. We file public records as presented by the customer. We take what's received when it's complete and we record it. We are ministerial. We do not have a regulatory role or an enforcement role. So we're not going to tell somebody that they're doing business incorrectly or receive a complaint about another business because they're not operating correctly. We don't have the authority to take any action on those items. We can help provide you with resources for local law enforcement, researching attorneys, or in the case of consumer protection, we might send you over to the Attorney General's office. Ultimately, what our goal is and our primary role is we hold public records for inspection. Everything that's filed with our office becomes public record, and it's available to the public for free on our website at any time they wish to look it up. Some other programs that we have include the Charities Program, which, for example, is a nonprofit that's raising money from the public for a charitable purpose. They might need to be registered with the Secretary of State Charities Program. Apostille program is one that a lot of people are not familiar with. That's the certification of documents for foreign use. So if you are going to be doing business in another country, whether it be Canada or in Asia or in Europe or anywhere else, when you take a school record, business contract, marriage records, anything that is signed by a Washington notary public or a Washington public official, you'll need to get a apostille certification of that document before that country will recognize its use. We also do state level trademarks. For a federal trademark, you would go to the US Patent and Trademark Office. But if you're only operating in Washington State, then you can do a state level trademark as well. And what that'll do is record ownership of a slogan or a logo or something that you've put time and expense into building for your business. So steps to create the legal entity. The first thing we always share is to prepare. Make sure that you've completed your research, your business plan, and utilize the many planning resources available. Things like SCORE counselors, for example, the Small Business Development Centers, the SBA. One of my favorites is the Washington State Small Business Guide. You can find a comprehensive guide at business.wa.gov that will give you a lot of insight on things you need to know when planning and building and growing your business. So one of the first steps you're going to take when you're filing with the Secretary of State is you're going to need to choose the legal name. The legal name belongs to the entity. It's different than anything. It must be different than anything that's already on record with the Secretary of State. The legal name is also different or can be different than your trade name or the DBA names that you might be more familiar with. The legal name belongs to the entity and it represents the entity. Another thing you're going to need to do is determine a duration. It can be perpetual and ongoing, which is the most common thing that is selected, or you may need to choose a specific date in the future, which can be 50 years from now, 10 years from now, a year from now. The specific date in the future is commonly used in the case of a partnership that has a defined length of time, or if there's some type of a contract award or grant that ends on specific dates. You can select that specific date in the future to automatically trigger a voluntary dissolution based on the date that you've provided. The effective date that can be at the time you file your documents, everything's complete and recorded, can be your effective date, or you can choose a date up to 90 days in the future. More commonly, it's time of filing, but sometimes somebody will say, hey, I want the business to start on the 1st of next month, or excuse me, or the first 2 months down the road. As long as it's within 90 days, you can pick any date you want it to officially take effect. But keep in mind, when you do that, anything you're doing up until that point, you're not doing as a legal entity. One of the next steps will be to identify your principal office. Principal office is commonly referred to as the place where records are kept. It doesn't necessarily mean a business address or your place of business. It's where you're doing where you keep your records and where you keep your information. You'll find a few different address requirements throughout this process, but the first one that comes up that you're asked for is going to be your principal office. And again, that's where you're going to be keeping your records. Another thing to keep in mind is that address is public. So when it's recorded with our office, it is public and available for everybody to see. Next step is you're going to have to designate a registered agent. Registered agent is the person that's responsible for receiving and forwarding all of your legal correspondence, like a service of process or a summons and complaint. Few of these bullets I really want to dive into here. The registered agent name and address will be public record. Whoever is designated is going to be in the public record. It will be searchable, and it is going to be available online. Those are always things to keep in mind with any time you hear public record or entity filing, because it is all public. Now, as far as there's no qualification to become a registered agent, it can be anyone that consents to be responsible. The designated person has no authority in the business, but they are responsible to receive and forward legal documents that are served on your business. The designee should be available during normal business hours. That can be tricky sometimes if you don't have a formal business front or somebody that's willing to take that on at their personal address. An alternative to that is there are dozens and dozens of what we call service companies or registered agent services. You can hire them to represent you as your registered agent. They will provide you with a physical address that's available to the public. They have somebody available during normal business hours. So if your business is being served formal documents, they'll be available to receive that on your behalf. And they're also required to get that information to you. Those services start at anywhere from $40 a year on up to hundreds a year. Excuse me. Hundreds a year, depending on what level of service you subscribe to. The address used for the registered agent, if you're not using a service company, you have to make sure that it's a physical address in Washington. It cannot be a PO box. It cannot be a PMB. And you cannot use the business address rentals from things like UPS Store and others that sell things as a virtual store. Those are not acceptable for a physical address in Washington. It must be something identified, because we do a verification with the US Post Office on the address to make sure that it's not a PO box or a PMB. And when you use those rental addresses or those virtual business addresses, those actually register with the post office as a PMB, and it would not be allowed for representing your registered agent. Next step is initial report. It's optional to file at the time of origination or when you're filing your articles or your certificate. You can file it at that time, or you can do it up to 120 days later. If you do it at the time of origination, it's free. If you file it within that first 120 days later, then there is a $10 filing fee. The initial report includes many of the same things that you're going to find in your annual reports, which we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Starting with the nature of business, which is very basic, a brief description of the type of work you're going to be doing as a business. It also includes a list of your governors. Governors are the people responsible to make decisions and have been vested with authority within your business. You're probably more familiar with common terms like a president, vice president, director, member, things like that. All of those titles roll under to one term called governor. And you're going to need to provide a list of governors, not only with your origination, but each year with your annual report. It can be one governor, depending on what type of business you have, or a single owner corporation, for example, is commonly referred to, or a single member LLC. But you'll need to make sure you've done the research on your business type to make sure you can only have one. You'll also be given an opportunity for an email opt-in. That's where you can elect to receive everything by email. No matter which way you choose, you're always going to be able to view all of your notices on your dashboard. And so once you sign into the corporations and charities filing system and create a simple account, you're going to be able to view your most recent filings, any notices that have gone out, your history, or generate new filings if you need to. But if you've email opted in, the easiest way to explain it, we stop sending you paper of any kind. Everything's available online, and you'll be able to print it from the website, and it will appear the same as if we printed it and mailed it to you. Next step is going to be to identify the executor of the documents. What that basically means is that it's the person that's completing the documents and forming the business. They don't have any authority beyond preparation and filing unless you assign them to other roles like a governor or a registered agent. An executor is just that. It's the person submitting the paperwork. Annual reports. This is a big one that we really like to push a lot of attention to as well. And an annual report is an informational report that's due the anniversary month every year. If you file in February, then by the end of February every year, you need to file an annual report. There's no financial information included in it. It's informational, and it's required even if you've had no activity throughout the year. Reminder notices are emailed on the first of the previous month that it's due. So if you're due in February, January 1, you're going to get an email notice that you need to file an annual report. It's going to be posted as a notice into your dashboard in the corporations and charities filing system. And then if you haven't opted for email only, then you're also going to get a letter on about the 10th or 15th of the previous month. That way, you'll actually be getting 3 directions on a reminder. Annual reports, again, they contain very basic information, just like in the initial report. They're essentially the same thing. You'll have to list your principal office, the registered agent, the nature of business, a current list of your governors, and again, one is required even if you have no changes throughout the year. If you do, what do you do if you do have changes throughout the year? There are a couple of different things. One is an amendment. You can make an amendment to the original documents to change things like the duration that we talked about earlier, the number of shares for a corporation. If you need to change the legal name, that can only be done through an amendment through the Secretary of State, and other structural adjustments that need to be made or be brought up to date to be consistent with your internal paperwork or your internal documents. Again, an amendment is a change to your original documents. Now, an amended annual report can be filed if there's 6 months or more before your expiration date. The amended report can be used to update anything that's on the annual report. if, for example, if you've recently filed one and you realize your governors are changing or your registered agent is changing or some other key piece that's in your annual report has changed, you can file an amended annual report to update that information. It's $10 and it takes about 5 minutes to fill out. If you're within 6 months of filing your annual report and something has changed, you can actually file your annual report a little bit early, up to 6 months before the expiration date, and then that will carry you through the next year consistent with your expiration date. So ways to contact our office with questions. One is the website, sos.wa.gov/corps, C-O-R-P-S. Not only is there a lot of information and forms and things there available for you to view, but we also have several places where you can enter live chat. Our live chat is a real person. We don't use the bots or the predictive answers or any of that. If you've connected with our live chat, you're actually getting a live person the same way you would as if you had made a phone call. Email corps@sos.wa.gov. Send us an email. We're usually respond on the same day, if not the next business day. Our goal is to answer within 24 hours. And then you always have the option to give us a call, 360-725-0377. And you will reach a live person, and it usually takes anywhere from 1 to 4 minutes, depending on the time of year and how busy we are at that time. But any of those ways are a great resource in addition to utilizing the website for basic information. We also have a list of frequently asked questions on our website that can give you answers to the real most common things that come up. So that's a great step-by-step of, or even a snapshot, you might even say, of how you're filing documents with our office to get started. We have a full session at 1 o'clock for what you need to know with filing with the Secretary of State. It'll cover a few of the same things we went over just now, but then it goes into the details, and I've got some step-by-steps and some step-by-step information and some clear examples from our website. Again, my name is Patrick Reed. I'm available for questions. I'm also a member of the Small Business Liaison team. So if you have questions about filing with the Secretary of State, please feel free to reach out. Email usually works best for me because I never know which office I'm going to be in. Or what meeting I might be in, but you can also leave me a voicemail or try and reach me by phone. But again, shoot me an email if you have questions, and I do my best to answer them as fast as I can. And that completes my portion of the presentation, and I thank you and look forward to the next session as well.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's session. I am Tanya Dassow, and I work for Department of Revenue Business Licensing Service. In today's session, I will walk you through how to utilize our services when working with the Business Licensing Service Program. The Business Licensing Service Program was created to be a one-stop for business owners. We partner with more than 140 Washington cities and 9 state agencies. When applying for the license, if you have employees, the application will also open your accounts for employment security and labor and industries. If you are located in Olympia, you would also apply for your city license as an example. The business structures that are not required to register with the Secretary of State first are sole proprietorship, which is one individual or married couple, a general partnership, which is 2 or more people, usually not a married couple. An unincorporated association, this is a group of people who share a common interest. A unified business ID, also known as a UBI, will be issued when the business license application is processed. What is a trade name? A trade name is any business name that does not contain the full legal name of the owner. It includes words which suggest additional parties of interest, such as company and sons and associates. It differs from the name registered with the Office of Secretary of State in Washington. An entity name is a name that is registered with the Secretary of State. Ways you can research business names are through the Business License and Tax Business Lookup tool to research state and city business licenses and trade names. You can also visit the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. The Business License and Tax Lookup tool can be used to look up registered trade names with the Department of Revenue, business names, specific UBI numbers, and license numbers. Next, we'll navigate to the home screen of the Department of Revenue's website. We'll now click into Open a Business. From here, we are going to look at the Business License Wizard. The Business License Wizard is a great tool for new businesses. You can get a customized guide by answering a few questions and inputting some information about the new business. This will give a new business all the information they need to start doing business in Washington. Now I'll do a demo of the wizard so you can see how it works. We'll click on Start a Scenario. The first page, you'll choose what your business activity will be. By keying in the activity and selecting from the drop-down, you can select up to 5 activities. As you can see, I selected contractor and then selected construction contractor, and we'll select next. This page is where you can choose what business structure the business will be. I chose sole proprietorship. Once you choose the structure to the right, it gives a description. Then you will click Next. This page is where you would select if you have employees and the type of employees, including adults, minors, or both. If you will not be hiring at this time, you would select I will not have employees. I selected adult employees today, and I'll select Next. The physical location page asks if you know the physical address. If you select yes, it requires the physical address of the business. If you don't know what your physical location is, you can select no and choose a city or county from the drop-down menu below. I'm going to type in no today and select Mercer Island. On the other city page, you can choose multiple cities you might travel to do business in. As I stated, we partner with over 140 Washington state cities. If the city you need is not listed, you would need to contact them directly for their city license. Today I'm going to add Tumwater and Federal Way. And the summary page includes an option to email or print the information before you apply. Since I stated my activities as a contractor, the summary lists different licenses and fees a contractor may need, along with the approval time. It also included the cities we said we'd be doing business in. If we were to keep scrolling down, there is a blue Apply Now link that directs you to our online application in My DOR, where you can file the application directly. Below that is a more detailed version of the summary. You can click on any of the expand links to view more detailed information and links to the state partner agencies the business may need to contact. The Additional Resources tab provides the documents required and contact information for state agencies that we do not partner with, and the business may need to contact to get started. This is to help ensure you are aware of any state requirements you may have due to your activity. You will also have the option to email the summary. This allows you to save the summary in your email for a later date to return to apply. This is a great tool to help a new business owner know who to contact for the specific type of business they plan on starting. A Unified Business Identifier, also known as a UBI, will be issued for ownership structures that are not required to be registered with the Secretary of State. The business license application will also register your business with the Department of Revenue for sales and B&O tax, the Department of Labor and Industries for industrial insurance, Employment Security Department for the unemployment insurance, and Business Licensing Service for trade name registration and any renewable license that is indicated on the BLS fee sheet. including more than 140 city licensing partners. There are two ways currently to complete the application. The online application through MyDOR by going to secure.dor.wa.gov and completing the online application. The processing time for the online application is within 10 business days. Or the PC fillable document where you can print and mail into Business Licensing Service. The paper mailed in application is processed within 6 weeks. Now we will navigate to the MyDOR link going to secure.dor.wa.gov, which is the first step in filling the business license application out. Here we will log in with our Secure Access Washington, also known as SAW, login and password. Once logged into MyDOR, you'll click into the licensing services and apply for a business license. We are now in the online application. Here we can select to start a business in Washington State if no UBI has been issued, or enter in the current UBI and select next. Here are the owner structure types that you can select from. If the business structure type is required to register with Secretary of State, they will need to register with Secretary of State prior to filling out the application, or they will be stopped and have to go to Secretary of State and then come back. Today we will select sole proprietorship. We will confirm if we have a UBI in Washington State. Today I selected no to be issued a UBI. This page confirms what is needed to file the application and select confirm. In this section, enter in the FEIN number if known and answer if you'll be hiring employees within 90 days. Answering yes to the question will add the endorsements for Employment Security Department and Labor and Industries. If language assistance is needed, select yes and then the preferred language, then select next. This is where you'll input the owner's information. Since I selected sole proprietorship, it will require the owner's last name, first name, and phone number, social security number or I-10, and the home address. After inputting the address, select the blue Verify button to run it through the GIS system to verify, then select Next. The next screen will ask if there's a spouse. If so, then ask for additional information pertaining to the spouse. This area is where we will provide the name of the business. Enter in the business name and select Next. The next screen is for registering the trade name. If the name is anything other than the entity name or the owner's name, if a sole proprietorship, this will be also considered a trade name. For example, an alias or any nickname you use in conjunction to your business name are a trade name. You can see the system added the business name, and I have the option to register additional trade names. And then select Next. This section is for the optional coverage for owners and officers. The questions default to no, and if you do not change, the cover will not be applied for through Labor and Industries. The two questions are, do you want to apply for workers' compensation coverage for owners? And do you want to apply for workers' compensation coverage for excluded employment? Select Next. The physical location of the business. You can select if the address is the same as the home address, or select no and enter in the physical address of where the business operates. You'll then verify the address and select Next. The next slide is similar for the mailing address. If it's the same as the physical address, you will be able to select that in order to not have to rekey in the information, and then select Next. This section is the business information, which includes the first date of business in Washington, the estimated gross annual income, the business phone number, and email address. The following screen will ask if there's a prior business, including did you buy, lease, or acquire all or part of an existing business? Did you purchase, lease any fixtures or equipment on which you have not paid sales or use tax? Is the business owned by, controlled by, or affiliated with any other business entity? Are you changing your business structure? Have you ever owned another business? You'll answer yes or no to the questions and then select next. This section asks if you will be traveling to do business in any other city than you are located in. For example, if you are a contractor and have a job in a different city than your business office, you may need additional city licenses. Select yes or no and then select next. Here you can choose any city you may travel to do business in. BLS is partnered with more than 140 different Washington cities and towns. If your city is not listed, please contact that city directly. It does not mean you are not required to obtain that city license. It means it is a city that does not partner with us at this time. I'm going to add Federal Way today and then Fife and select next. You will then see the city addendum questions for the 2 partnering cities I selected on the previous page. Each city has different requirements on the questions asked. You can see here Federal Way requires the estimated gross income and the employee count in the city. Fife requires the first date of business in the city, the estimated gross income, and the number of employees working in Fife. The additional information collected by our city partners in the next section is: are you a general or specialty contractor? Do you have a Washington State professional or occupational license? Do you provide utility service? Is this business a 501c nonprofit? You would answer yes or no to the questions and then select next. This section asks what the primary business activities will be. You can select up to 5 activities similar to the wizard. This helps determine what state endorsements are needed. I typed in contractor and selected contractor construction and then next. If you selected your hiring employees, you will be asked the employee information, including the employment start date, the first date wages are paid, number of employees, estimated hours worked for a 3-month period, then the description of what the employees will do. If you are hiring employees under the age of 18, you'll be asked the age range and the duties of the minors, and then select next. You'll also have the option to view the list of all the BLS state endorsements that we provide. When selected yes, it shows the endorsement name and descriptions that are available to apply for. Select any state endorsements that may apply to your business and then select next. This screen is an overview of all the endorsement and fees applied for on this business license application. Since I indicated we have employees and I'm traveling to different cities, you can see the employment endorsements, tax and city licenses were added with the fees that go with each endorsement. Below you can see the trade name registered and the BLS processing fee as well. The next screen will be the payment screen. Some forms to remember when applying for your business is the business license application. This is required for all ownership types. And then all other agency addendums as needed, such as your state endorsement addendums and city license addendums. Some resources we've provided are the Department of Revenue's website, dor.wa.gov, and your MyDOR login, secure.dor.wa.gov, where you can process your applications and renewals, and the Small Business Guide at business.wa.gov. Here we have our contact information, including our address, phone number, and email. With that, I would love to thank you for joining us today and open that for questions. Have a great day.